Welcome back to the Old World Paranormal Podcast, episode number 97. We are just a few episodes away from that magical number 100. Who's it going to be? You'll have to wait and see. Nick has been busy booking some guests because he claims that I don't. Let's see, season one and half of season two, we can attribute to my booking, but that's all right. That's all right. Don't even say it, Nick. Cover your face. Back away. No, go ahead and say. You want to say something, don't you?
You're so full of shit.
I am. I
Just,
totally am.
just, just move on and introduce our guests.
All right, moving on. Moving on here, episode 97, we have a returning guest, someone that since the last time we've had him on, we've gotten to know quite a bit better, done some investigations with him. It's been, it's been what, probably a year at least or more since we've had him on. But welcome back to the show, Mr. Sean Austin. And with him, we have another very special guest, Billy Lewis. Billy is the creator of Scare Network, also a producer there. And he didn't want me to say creator. See, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If I started something and it was something big like Scare Network, I would want people to know that it was me. It's not about having a big head. It's about, hey, here's Scare Network. Here's the guy that made it. Moving on. Am I right or am I right?
No, you're right. You're right. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, I've gotten a lot of help from others. It is not just me. So,
sure.
but
Billy, I heard Scare Network's all about you.
no, well, it should be called the Sean Network,
The Sean Network.
the Sean Austin Network.
Pretty
I
accurate.
mean, I got to get him. I got to get him out of these daggum documentaries. But he's so good on camera. No, I'm just kidding.
And speaking of which, we have a brand new one that we'll talk about today that was just released here within the last week or so. So we'll talk about that as well. And yeah, welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate
They
it.
look so fucking thrilled.
At least Sean's smiling.
Oh my God. So yes, much to talk about. Holy, from the documentary to I want to dive into the paranormal and the whole network scene. What the hell's the difference and all that stuff. And I mean, I obviously know Sean's background, got to know him a little better. Billy, what's kind of your background? What led you to creating something like this or why you wanted to?
Um, so should I start when I was 5 years old?
Yeah, we got all the time in the world. Tell me what you
No,
ate then. And
um, so growing up, as far as I can remember, I distinctly remember when I was probably 6, 7 years old watching The Omen. You remember the original
oh yeah,
Omen with my
yeah.
dad?
Classic.
Yeah, whatever year that was made, early 80s. I remember watching that, and it's funny because my mom is um, very religious and very by the book, but um, growing up, every Friday night she would take us to the video store to get VHS tapes, and I would get Friday the 13th and
Right.
Nightmare on Elm Street and Chucky and anything you can imagine. I would get those. And why she let me watch those even back then, I'm still um, confused by. But I think subconsciously maybe that set something in motion with me, and it's something that I never even thought about growing up. I mean, I love movies, but my father was a big high school football coach in North Carolina, so it was always about sports too. But I loved like scary movies, but I never, even in high school, never wrapped my head around how you go to the theater and you never even think about how that movie's made and the process
Right.
of getting it made up on screen. You're so naive at that point. You're just like, oh, let's just go watch a movie. It just never registered to me. So anyway, so when I went to college, I went to East Carolina University. I was just really searching for what I felt like my path was going to be. Was I going to get into coaching like my dad? Because it's definitely in my blood. Because this man is uber successful. He's in the North Carolina Hall of Fame. Went over 300 football games, like 7 state championships. Sent several players to the NFL. Crazy success. So, I just had to do a lot of soul searching in my early 20s just to figure out what path I felt like I was put on this earth to do. So, a lot of praying, a lot of meditating, a lot of reading, think about it, and something was just drawing me to, the film entertainment business. For whatever reason, nobody in my family had ever done it before, and so long story short, I ended up working in TV news for 5 years as a photographer, and that was really the base. That was my film school because it taught me every day for 5 years. I had a camera on my shoulder. I had it on a tripod, and I learned how to shoot things. I learned how to interview people. I learned how to edit. And I learned how to, most importantly, it taught me how to move fast and how to work fast because when you work in TV news, you gotta go and you gotta edit fast because you gotta have it on by the 5, 6 o'clock news. So
Right.
more than anything, it gave me a great work ethic. So when I do a project and I go and shoot something, I've carried that work ethic with me where I don't sit on something for like a year. If
Mhm.
Demon Castle, for example, the new one, we shot it back in June. Well, I didn't start editing it until the beginning of December, and then we released the first one on December 22nd.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so I moved really fast, and Sean can attest to that. But so anyway, so I did the TV news thing, got out of that, started my own production company. It was such a hustle to do that. Started filming a lot of TV commercials, a lot of corporate videos for companies, just obviously to make a living, to be able to continue to buy better cameras and improving just as a filmmaker. Was lucky enough to write and direct a couple of narrative horror movies where I had investors. Not a lot of money, but I had a budget. You can see if you can see over my shoulder. Well, it's kind of hard to see, but it's a jailhouse poster. Let me turn this light on right.
Oh, okay. I can
That
see it. Yeah.
that was my first movie, and actually, I had C. Thomas Howell in that movie. He was like my main guy. C. Thomas Howell's from big '80s star. He was in Red Dawn. He's in the law.
Well,
Uh,
Outsiders.
Outside with
Oh,
Patrick
okay. Yeah.
Swayze and Matt
Yeah.
Dillon and Tom
Wow.
Cruise. He was the main dude in that, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. So when I was 30 years old, I wrote that movie, The Jailhouse. We shot it here in North Carolina. I had a little bit of a budget. We negotiated with his agent, put money in escrow. He came and shot with us for 3 weeks and was the star of my first movie. So got really lucky in that regard. I learned a lot from him. Um, but what I learned more than anything from independent filmmaking is that there's a bunch of crooks out there as far as, I did two big horror movies and I signed with second-rate distributors out in Los Angeles, and um, I know they made money off of my movies. Let's just put it like that. I don't know how much, and and I didn't make anything, but I'm the one who did all the work. 2
Damn.
years, both movies, 2 years. But the reason that I tell you that is because that was the motivation for me starting my own platform because I was tired of getting taken advantage of where I'm doing all the work and I'm just giving my movie away and these distributors are selling it all across the world. They're pocketing all the money, but they don't pay the filmmaker because they know the broke filmmaker doesn't have the money to sue them
Right.
to get money from them. So
That's a
it's a
fucked up
really
situation.
it's a nasty game, and the music industry is even worse. But
Well, it's just the entertainment business in general. It's just a
yeah,
shit show.
yeah.
So,
So long story short, that was the motivation for me starting Scare Network, and the idea had been in my head for a long time, not necessarily Scare Network, but the idea of kind of starting my own thing and keeping complete control of what we can create and putting it out to the world, and we make the money, um, and then don't lose the rights and stuff to it. Um, so then uh God, we started Scare Network 3 years ago. Right now, it's January, middle of January 2021. It's crazy hard to believe because we made a lot of good strides. But I ended up shooting some stuff on the Willows Wheat House in Indiana,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. And then that's how I met Sean. And one thing led to another. We shot the Malthus documentary in upstate Ohio, and yeah, just the idea was born from there, and it's just been rolling. There's obviously, you guys know, there's no lack of paranormal stories or scary stories out there. And early on, I used to say, man, every town in America has a ghost story, and it's like if we can even capture, one 25th of those stories, and we'll have enough material. Even if they've been done before, who cares? I can put my own twist and spin on them. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, enough about me. So let's talk about the
So how
weather.
did you guys end up crossing paths at some point? Was it just like by happenstance, or were you guys both supposed to be at a location? And then how did that lead to where you guys are
Well,
today?
when I did the Willows Weep thing, I went there a couple of times and shot a documentary on the Willows Weep and did a bunch of other short story stuff. And Sean was friends with Dave, who owns the Willows Weep house, and I ended up Zoom calling, interviewing Sean for Willows Weep for that documentary. And then they had suggested the documentary, the Malthus documentary, down in like I said, in Ohio, and
That happened
so
out of nowhere too. Like I was
yeah, on a
going back to
whim.
do that documentary because it was personally trying to mess with my personal life, and I was going
Right.
regardless. And literally 2 weeks before I had planned to go back there and face this true evil force, I mean, they, it's kind of just like, all right, this sound, you know, um, Billy was just like, wow, this sounds like a really interesting story. I'd like to shoot it, and then that's really kind of the catalyst of
I
the
think
first project.
it was less than 2 weeks. It was like a week, and
Yeah, it was something really quick.
I had to, obviously, because I was gone for like, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 days, and I really had to, explain to my wife. She's like, why are you going to go do this again? You're going to go film a haunted house? And it's funny because when we went and shot that, I gotten a bunch of interviews with them and gotten a little bit of background on the house and the story and Sean's experiences and stuff. And I was so naive because, like I said, I've shot narrative horror movies, and I've shot about every other business out there that you can imagine. But I had not shot anything paranormal. I shot a lot of other scary stuff, and I was so naive going in that house. I remember just going to get B-roll, just different video shots with nobody in it of like the house and the
Mhm.
location. I remember going down in the basement and walking around with the camera, naively thinking, I'm like, man, I know I'm going to catch something on camera. I know I'm going to see something or get something on camera. Just very naive of the whole world of paranormal. And I'd watched paranormal shows and stuff before, but I hadn't really paid attention to
Right.
them closely. And honestly, before I started doing it, my wife and I we'd sit there and watch them and kind of laugh at most of them because of how ridiculous they were. And then I found
Was
myself
hold on.
shooting,
What was one of them? Ghost Loop.
probably. I can't defend it. I can't definitively say that, but it
Oh
probably.
man,
I
there's
heard that
there's
was a
three
great
words we
show.
don't say on this podcast: Ghost Loop and Zach Baggins. They're Baggins. It'd be 4 words.
I don't know
But
what you're talking about. I don't even know. I don't know what that term is.
but as far as you, Sean, you've had some success, on TV and different shows and stuff like this. So now here comes it, Billy and this whole new Scare Network thing, or just not even that, just filming a documentary with you. What like convinced you to entrust him? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I think it was obviously organic per se because, the Malefice story was so personal to me. I had wrote about that story in my first book, Shadow Chaser, and I didn't realize that I'd be going back there 5 years later because it was still with me and trying to mess with my personal life. And, the way that, Billy put it all together in this amazing cohesive story and visually being able to watch all that, how powerful it was. Um, I can say that Malefice is like my proudest paranormal film project because again, it's very personal to me and
Right.
it shows you, what I do, how I do things and the battle versus good versus evil and like having Ralph Sarchi as a part of it in the background, who's my mentor in demonology and just like there's a lot of knowledge there's a lot of experience and like the evidence that we have to back up my experiences that is just reiterated over and over again on the document. We had so much evidence we couldn't even fit everything in the documentary.
Right.
But and again, also the artistic freedom. I know the chains that come with doing TV projects. It can be a real nightmare. You're rolling the dice, you're getting on a TV project, and you're hoping that your reputation is not going to be thrown in the toilet
Right.
and you don't know how you're going to be perceived. You have no control of the edit. It's just like they're going to put it up in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and you're just going to sit there and bite on your fingers.
It's what it is.
You know, it is
Either
what
I'm
it
a
is.
good paranormal investigator or I'm the douchebag in the episode. What's it gonna be?
Right. You know, it's always, it's the opinion of the camera, how they want to spice
Right.
it up. It's kind of, what they do with the news. But anyways, that I think kind of progressed our relationship because I really enjoyed the artistic, not just the freedom, but also the involvement of like creating something. And even myself, like I like to be involved, and obviously I've really dug in deep with some of these projects with Billy too, and putting evidence and giving him ideas. And I think that kind of tickles my artistic side too. I mean, I was a musician and a singer before I was in the paranormal, but this kind of just reaches into all that. Like now with Billy, like I'm sitting here and like even our last documentary, I was a real stickler for music. Like I literally chose like probably every music piece on the documentary because I think the music is just as important as the moment that you're portraying. The
Right.
music is an amplification of the type of or characterization of the moment that's happening, and it can actually lift that to another level. So, I'm very picky with that. And being a musician, I can tap into that and you're more so than your average person, I believe. And I love that all that involvement and obviously like even starting to edit my own little things like it's just it's a whole process and of course it encompasses the passion of the paranormal. We're creating something, telling a story professionally and producing really good evidence. And that's it's not rocket science. A lot of these TV shows kind of focus so much on this story that they have to tell. It's like people
Right.
just want to be attached to the characters that are involved in the situation, care about them if something happens to them, and just tell the history and then produce really good evidence. It doesn't have to be this
There doesn't need to be a storyline,
glorified.
right?
Right, it doesn't have to be this glorified thing. It just let it naturally happen and people will resonate with that, connect with that, and they will be gravitating more towards these types of projects. It doesn't have to be this huge epic thing like the end of a horror movie or something like that. It's just let it
Right.
naturally happen. And Malefice is a perfect example of that. I mean, it literally progresses, through the story, and then we were there and then and doing the exorcism ritual at the end. It's pretty big. It's very deep. It's spiritual. I think it's powerful. Showing that there, evil exists and good exists, and again, we get to do a little bit of that in all these unique stories that we do for ScareNetwork.tv, and even like this most latest one, I think that's one of our favorites too. I mean, I think it's a very unique story, unique location, and like you said, where it ended up, taking me all the way to Delphi, Indiana, because I was seeing coincidences or connections and correlations that I could not ignore. And
Yeah. So let's just dive into that, Sean. So you guys, after a couple of years, you guys have a good, I don't know, repertoire, like working together. You're creating more content. So now you get an opportunity. How did this Demon Castle project come to fruition?
So a friend of mine does elect electrician work for people and all sorts of different avenue things, and he was speaking to a lady potentially doing some work for her, and I guess somehow she brought up that she has this haunted castle, and of course when he hears the trigger word and he's friends with me, it's like, yo,
Right.
Sean, this lady's got a haunted castle, maybe you should go check it out. And she told her about me, and then I ended up on the phone with her, and I was just like, well, it sounds really interesting. And she had told me that they had done some renovations on it, and potentially in the next couple of years they may want to live in it. So I decided, I'm going up in that direction. I was going on a trip in that direction, and I was like, I'm gonna make this kind of work itinerary wise.
Right.
And I went up with another investigator friend of mine, Eric Connor, and I'm like, look, come with me, check out this place. We're going to do a preliminary investigation, see what's going on there. We'll get some evidence, and maybe we'll end up doing a documentary about this story because it's a castle. I mean, I've never heard about it. It's unique. And so that's what we did. We got up there, and like right before we went inside the castle, the owner decided to send me an image of this box with the word Odin and Delusion Stave on it with sigils on it, and tells me I didn't know until literally right before we walked in that they found evidence of some sort of ritual that had been done in the castle.
Right.
And I it said to Eric, and I'm like, wow, this may be a different ball game what we're walking into, because I thought we were just going to walk into like a historical castle and talk to some spirits and do my thing and pray, for souls, offer some respect to them and just tell the history or whatever it may be if we ended up doing a documentary. But that wasn't the case. As soon as we walked in there, Eric was filming me, and I just had this vision of this woman in a white dress. She looked normal, and then she kind of had her hand up, like doing a dance. And then as soon as she spun around, her face came back and it was just like black eyes and fangs and just saliva coming out of her mouth. And I tell him that I just had this vision. I do an impersonation just like I just did. And he's like, "Oh, that's creepy." And then all of a sudden we go up to the attic, to the top floor of the castle. And we got up to the top of the stairs, and Eric's to my right and literally to my left. It literally sound like it came out of a horror movie sound effect box, like a growl that was
Like Billy hit a button.
literally like Billy hit a button. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, and like Eric's freaking out. And of course, luckily we captured it on audio. It growled right at me, and it was right next to me. And it was just like that was kind of the beginning of this whole thing. And throughout the night, and if you see on the documentary, say for instance, we were live streaming that night. This isn't an edited documentary. This has happened in real time. There's thousands of people being able to watch this while you're doing your thing. And I remember this one moment where I'm looking down the hallway and I yell out, I'm like, dude, I just saw two yellow glowing eyes looking at me. And I tell Eric, and he's like, "Are you serious?" And then he takes one of those AI images,
Right.
and you probably saw it's like if we took an AI image looking down the stairs at me because we were about to go up to the attic again, and there's a translucent woman's face with red glowing eyes, and I'm like, dude, that's even freakier because that's connected to what I just told you, what I saw when we first
Right.
walked in.
Give
And
you
then I'm
validation.
Right. And then I'm looking down there with the yellow eyes. So, anyways, fast forward when I finally wanted to go through this 4-hour live investigation. And now, like when you want to go through investigation with the time to find the comb, it's like it's gonna cost you at least double the amount of time of the investigation. It's an 8-hour,
Right.
thing
Yep.
to sit there visually and listen for
Yep.
every little tiny thing. And literally about like 5 to 10 minutes before you hear me yell out that I saw two yellow glowing eyes, and then you see in the documentary, Nick, is that I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'm trying to debunk it. We're on the second floor. There's no lights from the car on the second floor. And I'm like, oh my God. And it looks like two yellow eyes opening up and closing. And then when I get to the point where I say I saw the same exact thing, unbeknownst to me, 5 to 10 minutes before that thing appeared, for me to say that
Right.
I saw this, not knowing that it was captured on video, I'm like, I just saw two yellow glowing eyes. And I'm like, what did I just see? And then I labeled, and you hear the responses, and it goes, it looked back, the serpent, it looked. I mean, that's insane. I mean, that's
Right.
like
Right.
three a multitude of things talking about the same thing for me to visually see and for the video to capture and then the spirit box to come through. To me is like, I mean, that's just pure unexplainable, but to me it's like validating what I actually saw and what we were dealing with.
Right.
And it just progressed from there. And like, this thing followed us home. It followed Eric back to his hotel room. He was really messed with. He thought he was going to die. And like, he actually needed to take a break. He wanted to take a break for like 2 months from the paranormal because it really messed with him. He was really messed up with it. And it was around me too. And I've, dealt with legitimate demonic cases. I mean, and I've obviously been mentored with Ralph. And because of me being sensitive, I knew this wasn't just a human spirit element in this castle. Now, mind you, when we released the trailer of the documentary, I think it got on the page of like the castle and Facebook, and there were some locals getting a little, riled up. Some
Oh
people don't
shit.
believe in ghosts, or they didn't like the fact that we call it the Demon Castle and stuff like that. And we also had somebody from a local paranormal group come on there, and then all of a sudden he's like saying that it's unfortunate I did an interview, and I'm just it's like there's no demon in there. You know these first of all, the group that was in there and the investigators, they were in there 3 to 4 years ago. Okay, so this box with this ritual was found in there because somebody broke into the castle within the last year to year and a half. So
Right.
it was a different ball game when we went in there. And I think the name of the documentary is just a representation of what we dealt with. It was serious. It was no joke. And I'm telling you, it's just like, it came with us and actually followed us to our next documentary. And we even have to portray that on our next documentary coming out at the Shanley Hotel and try to do a whole hostile takeover of our investigation. My friend got scratched, and I'd show, actually, Nick, you've seen the picture. I showed him with his face turned into a pig, and it's linked to what I saw in the basement. I saw a pig face, and it's just this whole thing. It was seriously nasty. And I know that, it's obviously a sensitive subject because it's local and people probably look at it as some sort of historical landmark, but yeah, I think in the documentary we kind of show
You, but
evidence
you're,
to show what we
but you're,
experienced.
you're documenting your experience,
Yeah,
not everybody's experience. This is about why you went there and your whole experience while you were there.
yeah,
So even if, like you said, 3, 4 years, previous, another team was there and they could investigate it for a year. You're correct. They might not have never ran across something like that.
no,
But,
no,
when you
and
come
you,
through another
yeah,
time span of it sitting empty and nobody investigating it or whatnot, so many factors can go into play. So they
yeah,
can't really call you out for that.
yeah, I mean, dude, the place is abandoned. There was like drug addicts and all sorts of strange characters getting into that castle. And one of those people, or maybe more, did that ritual in there. And we even have an occult specialist that came on there and said the sigils were more satanic in nature, even though they were using a Norse mythological figure in the name. And I was becoming very interested in this part too, because I've never encountered the word Odin on an investigation. Even obviously, I
Right.
know a little bit about Odin, the name, you think about even Marvel and stuff like that, and all the Norse stuff. Like, I just really never, but you can intertwine that name. And even in Satanism, they use the word Odin. It's supposed to be an exact copy of actually Leviathan, which is one of the, main honchos of demons and stuff. They can
Right.
intertwine these occult practices like rope and names and other different religious practices. But
Ain't no different than
what
the regular religion.
the most important element to know is the intent of the individual. That's what really is going to fire this thing off and create something or open up a door for that type of thing to come through. And that intent was obviously to hurt someone or do some sort of bad or negative thing to somebody. And that thing was infesting that castle because of what was done in there. And that's why the investigation in the entire documentary represents that, is because it was a true inhuman spirit in there, and all the experiences that we had, it definitely, I believe, proves that. And that's why I did the exorcism ritual in the house, because ultimately these people want to live there. I mean, if it was just going to sit there
Right.
abandoned, we could just
Right.
sit there and do the research. But I can't sit there and antagonize some evil spirit if the people don't want the help, because there could be some sort of loophole spiritually where this thing can come after me if I'm just trying to sit there and poke it. Um, so
So after that preliminary investigation with you and Eric, do you immediately get on the phone and call Billy like, "Hey, we need to film this"?
Well, it's kind of interesting because we had talked about doing the documentary at some point. I'm like, this is a really interesting place. We had a lot of crazy stuff happen, and we were actually supposed to do a documentary at another location, but last minute it actually fell through. And
Oh,
Billy
okay.
was already coming up. We were going to do the Shanley Hotel, and since the castle is in that same proximity, it kind of like changed gears. And I'm like, obviously, if Billy takes a trip, we want to at least kind of bang out maybe 2 projects at least and make it worthwhile. So instead of it kind of waiting in the back burner, it was like, because we had other projects in front of it, it all of a sudden it turned right around, and there I'm like, there we are going back to the castle. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's funny because again, 3 days before I returned to the castle, I was laying in bed, which I talk about in the documentary, and this has never happened to me before. I was like awake in a dark room. I looked to the left of me and I saw a pale woman's face with black eyes, with a twisted face and smile, looking up in the ceiling, and I could see red glowing eyes at the corner of my bed, 7 feet tall in the air. And I knew that was the thing from the castle, because that's initially what I saw when I walked into the castle that first night, is that this demonic inhuman entity is projecting itself as some sort of like female spirit, but behind the curtain, so to speak, it's this evil presence. And it has made itself known all throughout the process and still to this day. And now, Nick, I think that you yourself has even experienced this with me on a
Oh, I
couple
was going to get to that.
investigations recently.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, yeah.
But Billy, okay, so I want to know your thought process here. I know you've got more of a horror background. You're
Mhm.
getting into the paranormal side. And you start teaming up with Sean on these projects. Now, Sean, with a demonology background and all that stuff, calls you up and says, I think I have this fucked up demon place. Come up here, let's film it.
Mhm.
Does it ever cross your mind about what can happen to you while filming or bringing home stuff to your family?
Yeah, that's definitely crossed my mind before. Couple things with that. You know, I'm a pretty strong Christian, not as strong as I should be. Obviously, I think we all fall short in that regard, no matter if you're a pastor or what. But anyway, my point is I have a really strong faith. But when I go to these locations, and we've been to some just in the last 3 years, we've been to some pretty crazy places. Yorktown, Texas, we went to that abandoned asylum. I still think it was so cold that night when we did that, but
Wait,
Sean
wait,
and
wait. Sean, did you complain about that?
oh,
Oh,
he
you kidding?
did big time, big time.
Yeah.
He said it messed the whole investigation in the
Yeah,
documentary
I've
up
always said like if it's like
because
too
of the cold.
cold, I can't like hone in on my senses or even just like what you're focusing on when it comes to sounds and kind of just like, trying to use the environment to do our research and try to attain evidence. And on top of it, to be honest with you, we had actually before that we had investigated the Goatman's Bridge too, and there was some really messed
Oh,
up
okay. I
energy
know
there
that.
too. And like unfortunately on that trip, I was like running around with Billy and running and gunning early in the morning because he wanted to do B-roll and I was driving with him and Eric had his
Yeah.
own car. And like, if we were doing this for days and like, I wasn't getting any sleep, like I was investigating. And by the time we got to Yorktown, like hospital, I was getting like irritable, like legitimately like angry where I almost like, I just want to go back to the hotel room. And like, I actually told Billy, for future reference, like, I can't be going to these like seriously oppressive types of locations and not getting sleep because it lowers your vibration. It makes
Yep,
me susceptible
100%.
to the attacks of these things. And it was starting to happen. And I'm sensitive, so I'm even more prone to those attacks than your average person. So, and that's why like I try to avoid sleeping at haunted locations too, especially if there's negativity there. And if I'm going to be investigating or filming for more than one day, you got to be careful of that because that's how these things can start latching onto you. They're going to try to bring you down to their level so they can manipulate you from the shadows. So there's a real danger element with that too.
Yeah, and that place, Yorktown, and I'm gonna get back to your questions, but there's
Oh,
a
you're good.
reason I'm telling you that place is messed up too. It's been investigated by, other more well-known paranormal investigators and whatnot. But that place, Sean and Eric, for probably 2 hours went around and were live streaming, and then I was literally walking around this old abandoned hospital asylum, 3 floors, no electricity, couldn't see anything. So basically, I was walking around with a light and my camera and tripod and little dolly, and that's the one place I felt like I honestly felt like somebody was like standing right over my back watching me while I was filming B-roll and getting shots. But here's the thing, me as a filmmaker, I know that if I don't get those shots, then I'm not going to have that footage to work with. So I consciously put that out of my mind, and I don't dwell on it, think about it, even if the situation is really creepy and scary. Now, obviously, if I felt danger, which I knock on wood, I've not felt in danger physically or mentally, then I just try to block it out because I know I have a job to do because I know what my end goal is with these things is to produce a story, and it's up to me. Nobody else is going to get the B-roll if I don't, and get the footage to help carry the story of the location and whatnot. But really quick on that Yorktown, and you can see Yorktown, the whole documentary on Scare Network as well. Original. We need to go back. We could have done so much more with that too, but um, we got there at like maybe 9 o'clock at night, left at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And when we got outside, you remember this, Sean, on Eric's car was a dead
Yeah.
bird. And the bird was not there when he got there. But he's had a dead bird like sitting on his bumper. And we don't know where it came from or what. It was so bizarre and
Wow.
so odd. So anyway, so yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much my thinking. And Eric's made the point too, as far as his opinion on that is he feels like that if you're looking through the lens of a camera more times than not, like filming these things, that you're laser focused on that and you're more apt to maybe not get messed with by one of these spirits or entities or whatever. So uh pretty much like what I said. I mean, I know I have a job to do, and I know how to film it. Um, and I know that my stuff has to be in focus. I know the lighting has to be somewhat good if we're shooting with lights on, or if it's infrared, still has to be in focus. And I know there has to be good audio, because if you don't have those things, then your end product's going to be crap and you're going to get talked about. Nobody's going to watch it. So I'm kind of a perfectionist. So that's kind of where my mind is, even in these places, because again, like I said, man, it's like me doing the job of 10 people out there. And I wish that I had more people helping me. I truly do. And at some point we'll get there. But right now, with the network being so young and us trying to build it from the ground up from nothing, I'm just doing what I have to do to get us there. And again, it goes back to my news background and early on learning how to do every facet of filmmaking, from sound to lighting to camera to editing to all that. So all that, didn't realize it at the time, but it's definitely come full circle to help me be a better storyteller. And so that's the way that I try to treat each and every one of these documentaries. I don't want to just, and you can ask Sean, like, I'm not just going to go do a documentary and it's an hour and a half worth of evidence and that's it. Like, I like trying to get the history of a location the best we can. You can't always get that with locations, obviously. But the history of a location or different stories from other people, and get good professional sit down interviews. um, and then again, with the good B-roll, the drone, whatever, that helps really carry the story. And then what gratifies me more with these specific documentaries is you getting these interviews, or you learning about the history, and then you go and you're doing the paranormal investigation, and then you get that the paranormal evidence to back it up. That's very gratifying, because it kind of all ties it together. And luckily with Sean, I mean, gosh, I mean, that happens a lot. Surprisingly, it really does. And I don't know if we've just been lucky on a lot of it. It doesn't happen on not some of
It's
our
just,
docs.
we
Some of our
call that
docs
the
have been
Sean
duds.
effect.
Yeah, some of our docs have been duds, but but we get really good evidence, and a lot of it backs up the history and the story to go along with what's happening and what has happened at that specific location too.
Like, I'll never forget when we did like a 20-minute mini documentary while we were doing another documentary, which is another harrowing story about this girl who was possessed while she was pregnant in Mississippi. And we went to do the Witch of Yazoo. And like, I don't know if you guys know about that story. Like, the whole town is
Crazy
circular
story.
around this urban legend. I've never even like heard about it, where this witch was like killing all these men in the town, and the cops one day, just, and the townspeople went into the swamps and like, would they she ran away
No,
from them.
she was luring boaters off the Mississippi River and killing them, and the sheriff and his men went out to her cabin, chased her out. She got stuck in quicksand, and they just let her sink. And as she's sinking, this was supposedly in 1881 or 1884, and she said, 20 years from this day, I'm going to burn this city to the ground. And Yazoo City is a real city in Mississippi. And 20 years to that day, supposedly, well, not supposedly, the fire really happened, because in 1904, I believe, like the whole city of Yazoo burned, and they said that the winds weren't even strong that day, but the flame kept jumping from house to house. And the supposed witch's grave is out in the graveyard. We were there, and it's got chains on it. They were so scared of this woman, they chained her grave, and they said, as the city was burning, all these people ran out to the graveyard, and the chains were broken on her grave. So cool story. I want to do more with
And I'm
that.
saying that too because like there I am sitting on the grave, and I'm like, you know, I'm like 20 years ago, or however many years it was. I'm like
It was
20
either
years.
20 or 25. I can't remember.
It's like, I don't know how many years
But
it
anyways,
ever was.
you asked the
I asked,
question.
I'm
It
like,
said
all
20
those
years.
years ago, how many years ago did you burn it to the ground? It goes 20 years. I'm like, what did you do? And goes, burned it to the ground, female voice,
Or
clear as
burn it
day.
down. I think it was burn
Yeah.
it
Burn it
down.
down or something to that really clear.
Yeah.
I just
And it
jumped
was
up and I'm
super
like, you
clear.
got to
And
be
yeah, it
kidding
was a
me.
woman's
You
voice.
couldn't deny it. I was just like, oh my God, dude, that's so crazy. But yeah, things like that.
Before we move forward, I got it when he was talking about doing B-roll and he's like hyper focused. Like I got the image in my head where he's on the third floor of an asylum by himself and a demon's dancing in front of him. Billy's like, "Get out of my shot! Get out of
I,
my
pro-
shot!"
I probably was. I'd
Like the
probably
demon
be
from
like,
Insidious, the guy with
Yeah,
the organ in the background.
I'm like, why's my camera out of focus? Oh no, that's just an actual demon that I've been wanting to catch all these years.
yeah, yeah. We get the fuck out of the way.
Why can I not focus on this one thing? I'm like trying to focus on the wheelchair in the background. And he's like,
So you mentioned Odin in the documentary. Now, a really weird twist at the end of this documentary happens, and it has something to do with Odin. So, what happens with this, Sean?
Yeah, so again, I became a little interested and started looking up about the Odin element because I've never encountered that on
well,
any sort of
Sean, let me
case.
sorry to interrupt. I think I was texting you some articles about the Oda because one of my
Yeah.
friends who's really he doesn't have anything to do with it. He's a real estate agent here, but he's really into true crime stuff. He's really into the murders out in Idaho and all this stuff. But he started texting me some stuff on this guy Richard Allen, the suspect in the Delphi murders about the Odinism stuff. And I think I was sending you some of those articles, right, Sean?
I had heard about it. It was in the background. Like I knew that like Richard was saying Odin. I think I said something like, yeah, it's a little weird. But then all of a sudden one night I was with Chris, who's an officer in Jersey, who's also a paranormal investigator. He was at the castle, which he had these crazy experiences with too. And out of nowhere, the shit starts coming through about the castle, like nasty, like out of nowhere. And then the one EVP we play from that little clip, you can clearly, undeniably hear this evil, voice of a male saying, I am Odin. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, that's it. And like after that night, I was just kind of like, all right, so maybe I should just look into this Delphi thing. Because then someone mentioned it that night too. I'm just like, all right, let me just look at this case, just
Right.
get a little glance at it. And then when I looked at the case of the Delphi murders, I was taken back because, the girls had disappeared and were allegedly murdered in 2017 on February 13th. And that's my birthday. And me being a spiritual person, like I don't ignore these signs. These are things that I'm like, I get drawn to and I follow these signs. And at that point I was like, this isn't just a coincidence. I have to go there for whatever that reason is. I don't know, but that's just too much. That's too close. That's too the whole out of nowhere to have some random case come up with Odin out of nowhere. Out of all the years that I've been investigating the paranormal or doing demonology or doing any demonic cases, whatever it is, for that word to pop up and within close proximity, this case, and then to constantly come through and say I'm Odin, and then hear about the case of the two girls and realize that they disappeared, murdered on my birthday. I'm like, dude, this isn't this isn't a question of me going. I have to go. It was kind of like a mission. I'm like, all right. So, and literally the week before, the whole week before that I ended up there at the crime scene, I was having visions of what I believe what happened to the girls, and I believe that the girl Libby was speaking with me the entire week and saying things to me, kind of like my mom always told me, "Don't talk to strangers. We did bad," and that was one of the EVPs that we got, and I couldn't believe that she said that because I literally sat there at the crime scene. I'm like, "Well, what did you say to me that you were saying your mom always said to you?" And she's like, "Don't talk to strangers." Yeah, I mean, I was just like, it's so chilling. And then there was like, while we were at the crime scene, it was just like hail Satan and saying Richard right after it. And it was just so unsettling to be there. And I was more kind of worried about the human element, the real people element, rather than the spiritual element, because I'm like, there are all talks about local enforcement, law enforcement being involved in this stuff. And the property that's adjacent to, like right near where the girls were found, was this other guy, Ron, who had passed away, who had criminal past. And that was one of the things I was told, that guy knew too. He was involved,
Yeah.
that I was told to me, but he had already passed away. But anyways, I did my thing. Like I prayed for her. and it was getting dark. I just didn't want to be there. It was just again, the whole like small town element, like we're here, I'm just, let me do my prayer. We'll document whatever happens. And typically I see a white dove if a female crosses over, or a white horse, which would be a male crossover. So I just did a prayer, but I didn't see anything. So we started to drive back, and out of nowhere I just had this really good feeling, this burst of good feeling within me. I'm like, did she just cross over? Because I'm just like, something really good just happened. Like, I don't know. And
Right.
for the rest of the night, I would hear this voice saying to me, yelling at me, "You swine," and cursing at me that you took my virgin. Um, and to me, I was just like, is it talking about the girl? And not until review of the evidence, and there was even more EVPs relevant to the case that didn't even make it on the documentary, because I mean, I was going to become too long. I'm sure we could do a whole documentary on that case itself, because you can go down a rabbit hole with that.
Billy said that's enough, man. The documentary's done.
Yeah. But when I got to the point of, after I prayed and I listened to like the EVPs, and she's like, "I think I can go," and then said like, "In heaven I'm pretty." And I don't know what it was, but when I heard that, I just started to tear up. I was sitting right here, and I was just like, it hit me like a ball of energy. I was just like, oh my God, it really hit me hard. And I spoke to another girl who's a paranormal investigator that actually lived in Delphi, and I actually played the EVP for her. And she's like, you know what? She's like, I had heard that Libby would tell all of her friends that she never thought she was pretty. And to actually get that EVP, unbeknownst to that information, and hear that, it was just mind blowing,
Wow.
sad and beautiful at the same time. It made me so emotional, but again, it made me feel purposeful for the chance of being destined to be sent there and be a part of helping another soul. And obviously, that's been a reoccurring, theme in my journey in the paranormal ever since I began.
So after all this, so I don't know, maybe the past 2 months, Sean being in the area here, had the opportunity to investigate with him. I don't know, 5 or 6 locations, and hanging out the first time, he was telling me about this documentary him and Billy were working on it coming out, and he kind of filled me in with the Delphi thing, and I'm like, just listening to him, like, oh, that's cool, man. That's cool. Then we start investigating, and the other side of it comes out. The reality of things come out, and I'll let Sean kind of take over with this, but I finally understood after a couple investigations with you that how real this is, because the relevant EVPs that was captured on the investigation where we were at, and how they tied in to a case that you were already done with. Billy's doing his special thing with the computer, putting it together, still being affected by it, with this entity saying, you took my virgin, you piece of shit, and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about that. Some of the crazy EVPs we've caught here in the past month or two, and even the AI images.
Yeah, we actually didn't even put that on the documentary. I'm questioning whether or not we should have put that, because I thought that was just insane too, because that
Yeah.
was just ridiculous. But yeah, when we were in the Oddfellows place, was very active. We were having
Yeah.
some weird stuff go on. Um, I remember being in that room with all those like artifacts of that man that left all of his tools behind. It was kind of like a
Yeah.
museum of tools or something.
That's crazy.
And we were just doing random EVPs, and all of a sudden, like, I'm hearing like these words, and it was just saying, um what did it say? What it started, like, it was like demon on video, Delphi, and the castle. And then said exorcist, all in a row. They were all like these EVPs, and I'm just like, this is crazy. And then all of a sudden it goes
Did one say
virgin.
get the priest or something like that
I
before
think
Exorcist? It was something priest. I don't remember.
something, something. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it said virgin, and then you hear this low voice say Libby. And I didn't know that at the time until I reviewed that.
Right.
Um, but that was just like, obviously, I had told Nick a little bit about the Castle story, and then all of a sudden I'm like, dude, there it is. It's coming through. And it was like, to me, and obviously we talk about the documentary because it says demon on video. And I think about the yellow glowing eyes. That's literally, it's like they're saying you captured a demonic entity on video in the castle, the exorcism of the castle, and it's bringing up Delphi, the Virgin element, and let alone we're at an Oddfellows place, and where are we? We're in Indiana, and as a matter of fact, we weren't just in Indiana. Billy had just begun to start editing the Delphi portion of the documentary. So I think that was all kind of circulated into this energetic thing where it became even more prevalent while we were investigating and tapping and engaging the spirit world. And then all of a sudden we were upstairs in the top floor, and the AI images again out of nowhere in a row, like it looks like a snake coming at the
Yeah.
screen. And then the next AI image is a picture of a castle. Just like, and the whole element of the entire time of the documentary is bringing up snake, serpent, and the hissing, and just serpent, and like over and over and over again. I'm just like, this is just wild. And then obviously it even happened again when we were at the prison, which was also in Indiana. And like
Yeah.
you were just probably like taken back, like what the hell is happening right now, right? Because it was nuts. It was nuts.
Yeah, it just, you get one EVP, okay, you get two, all right. But this validates it because this is just not just one investigation. It wasn't just one night we went out and we got all these EVPs. This is multiple investigations in multiple, different locations, each one, you know, and to get those EVPs in the same voice tone and the same manner and everything in different locations. I mean, it just validates, especially what Sean is going through since this whole process. But you definitely, I think you guys definitely have a home run here. I mean, Sean, we call it the Sean effect because it's like you don't know what's going to happen. What the hell's going to go through? It could be his entourage of spirits that he carries with him. I mean, he might as well just open a spirit brothel, at least make some money off of this or something. But
I mean, even the prison that we were at that night. I mean, there's the couple that they've been running the tours there for 3.5 years, and was that his wife? What's her
they're
face? Pardon.
engaged.
They're
Might as
engaged.
well
Okay.
be.
All right. All right. She had said she's never seen activity in this place ever, until that night we were all together when we were investigating. It was wild. Like we were having like just constant, consistent, audible, disembodied voices in the room with us, and then capturing on audio just over and over again. And even what we
Well,
had happen in the Stone Mansion too, like
so
the shit,
mansion, yeah.
it was even getting wild too.
The
And
the EVP of the shotgun was
oh my God, yeah. Oh
like
yeah.
you
Yeah. I
don't
gotta go
get
through the evidence.
you don't get sounds like that. You get voices, but it was clear as day. It sounded like somebody cocked a shotgun in
Dude,
the room.
straight up. Like you hear it, it's like
Mhm.
like it's and like we were right in what the associated with the sheriff, right? In
Yeah,
that room.
yeah, yeah. There was like three
Different.
or four other EVPs in that session, but obviously the shotgun sound stuck
Yeah.
out to me.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple weekends ago, or was it last weekend? Hell, I don't know. We went to the Monroe house,
Oh, last weekend, yeah.
and you know, Sean asked me before we went. He was like, the disembodied voices are picking up,
Yeah.
and we were having a conversation about that. Like, I don't see or hear like Sean does. Like, I can feel some weird vibe energy and stuff like that. But he brought that up, and it kind of dawned on me. I was like, yeah, man. Like the past couple months, like every investigation, I've heard a disembodied voice. And I think we talked about this at dinner or something. But when we
Yeah.
got to the Monroe house, we both agreed like this energy in this front room was just messed up. So we go up there and we both hear a disembodied voice and we both react instantly to the
Looking in the
same
same
spot in the
direction.
room.
Yeah.
But Sean heard, what did you hear?
I heard a growl behind me.
You heard a
Yeah.
growl.
Yeah.
And what I heard was sounded like a female chuckle or giggle.
Like a little girl giggling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. which is something similar, which I told Nick before, is that one time I was investigating the archive of the afterlife, and Steve took out his demonic doll named Hope. I'm like, why don't you take it out? Let's see what happens. He took it out, and one of us heard a little girl giggle, and then one of us heard a growl. And it was just like it reminded me of that totally. But like we were actually hearing more. Like there was a man grunting, and it was just like it was happening. Like, and yeah, I was asking you that because it's been happening to me lately. Like even not even on investigation. Like I'm just being in a normal room and I'm hearing actual voices. Like I don't know what's happening. I don't know if it has to do with my ability or something that's happened to all of us. I have no idea, but it's definitely increasing.
Yeah,
Definitely.
100%. I can see you in the middle of Walmart picking up your Cheetos and like, shut up. No, shut up. And everybody's looking around like, man, that dude's fucked up.
I
Oh
want to
my
go to that,
God.
but I want to go to that Monroe house. I told Sean we got to do something bigger on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys got to one up the other one, the other documentary.
Is there one out? Well, is there one out or somebody? I know
Yeah, there's
those guys shot something on it, but they haven't put it out yet, though, have they? Or is there
It's not
something
out
else?
yet. I don't think. I don't know. But if you do it, at least one up it.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
But I don't know what's the future for Scare Network for you guys. What do you really want out of this? Rich and
Um,
famous?
no, no, that's the least. That's never been my end goal for any type of me being in the film business, man. I do what I do because, I told you early on, like I prayed and meditated and, and I truly just asked God, I'm like, hey, like, what am I supposed to be doing here on this earth? And obviously, just a feeling came over me that, and something just led me down this path like I've never been, had that such an overwhelming feeling before. So it's never with me, it's never been about money. It's never been about fame, notoriety, any of that stuff. For me, I do what I do because I truly feel like that's what I was put on this earth to do. And I could be dead wrong, but man, I've been doing it for 20 some years, and God's always taking care of me financially um in every other facet of my life, and I'm very blessed. So I just feel like just creating this platform was just part of his plan for my life, and I love creating something from nothing, um, and not. So, anyways, go back. Like I want this thing to grow where we're making enough money where I can just pay my bills every month. I'll be happy, but I want to be able to keep telling stories and keep upping our game. Um, Not just the documentaries, but I love to do narrative stuff and Scare Network. It's not just paranormal, it's like paranormal, horror, true crime, monster. So I want to do UFO stuff, I want to do Bigfoot stuff. As morbid as it sounds, people are infatuated with true crime stuff, which goes back to the Delphi and
Yeah.
obviously everything else. So there's so many avenues and stories that can be told with this, and what we're doing is nothing new. But
I think obviously it's for you, it's just like me, Billy. There's two profound elements, and it's tickling your artistic abilities. It's making you feel like you're using your artistic talents. And also, for me, it's the spiritual side and bringing spiritual awareness to knowing that this stuff is real. So it's kind of like a double win, so to speak. We get to create things, be artistically involved with this, and watch it all culminate into this like this piece of art. And then also bring awareness spiritually out to the public. So I think that's what it is for me. I love that. And also, having control without like the TV
Right,
situations where
right.
you kind of just like, oh my God, like
That's probably a blessing for you right there.
oh yeah, I mean absolutely. I mean telling good stories and bringing reality to what people may or may not believe out there. I mean, more and more people are opening up to this stuff. But creating something, of course, Billy's a storyteller, and creating something where there's tons of pieces of you know, movies and documentaries that can encapsulate that whole genre of scary.
yeah,
Whatever it may
and
be. That's exciting. I mean, I was a horror movie buff when I was a kid. I was reading
Right.
Stephen King novels when I was in grammar school, way long before I even got involved in the paranormal. I was just loved horror movies. I love scary shit. And, there's even like a movie concept that we've been discussing that, at some point we may be able to pull the trigger this year that is kind of a unique concept having to do with a demon, but it would be a narrative movie, but
Yeah.
also there would be experiences that actually I've had throughout the years and kind of incorporate that into the narrative story. But it's kind of a unique concept that I've never really seen done in this fashion, in this specificity to the paranormal. So that would be something really super exciting for me because it's not just documentaries and investigating, to actually watch like a narrative movie be put together involving that same, genre of what I'm so passionate about, and
Right.
giving still a real vibe to the the movie, because there's so many of these movies that they over accentuate themselves and amplify and exaggerate a lot of this stuff, and just bringing a reality to what really does happen and can happen, but also making entertaining at the same time.
Yeah,
So,
and sorry, Nick, what I was gonna say is, I tell people too, a couple analogies. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, and everybody and their mother obviously knows who Netflix is, but Netflix started from nothing too. So
mhm.
I'm not trying to be as big as Netflix. No, no way. But if we can be 1/100th of what Netflix is with our own little niche and carve out our own little niche in the market, then then I'll be happy. So, and been very blessed so far. Just have to keep hustling. It's been a hustle, man. It's not been easy by any stretch of the imagination, but um I'm keep pushing forward with it.
What makes you guys different from other networks or streaming platforms as far as, uh what's one of them? The Paraflix.
What-
Is that the one Natalie Jones owns? The
Mm,
Paraflix?
yeah.
Yeah, you
What's the
got
difference? Or what
yeah.
is it? Spirit Realm. Just mainly, what is the difference between what makes you guys stand out from the other ones? What?
I mean, from what I've seen, it seems like, Paraflix is geared just to paranormal.
Okay.
Um, from what I've seen, I don't know much about it, but Scare Network actually is also not just subscription based and paying a monthly fee now. It's in the coming weeks on all the apps, it's going to be free with ads, just like Tubi, which I think stands out with the accessibility to the average audience, so they don't have to
Oh,
pay
definitely. Yeah.
$5 extra a month in 100 different places when they just want to
Right.
watch some good content in the genre that they enjoy. I think that's huge. That stands out, that element, when we get everything working on every app, 1,000,000%. And then also the exclusive documentaries that we film ourselves, with
Yeah.
a lot of the other stuff. Seems like everyone just puts projects in there. I don't know if they really do exclusive stuff themselves. It's kind of like they film their stuff and then they bring it to them. Now, I'm sure,
Yeah.
Billy,
Pretty
you
much.
do that sometimes and bring some, certain projects of people that may come to you that maybe you think would be reflective and good for the network sometimes in some situations. But obviously the exclusive content that we film ourselves, I think probably is what's, makes us different, because I don't think
Cool.
many of them do that sort of thing, if I
Yeah,
stand
No,
corrected.
I think most of them, other teams film and like, hey, come be a part of my shit. I like, yeah. Anyways.
yeah. I'm starting to develop some relationships where we're, picking up some other horror films that are obviously not exclusive to network. You can find them on Tubi and Amazon and other places like that. But um, you know, I've gotten comment after comment about some of these horror films and other things that we're putting on there, even if they've been out for a few years, people are like, oh, I've never heard of that movie, or I've never seen that. And they saw it on our platform first. So, we're not reinventing the wheel like what Sean said. Our originals are our bread and butter because people really dig those, and you can only find them there. And again, I love YouTube. I've been a huge advocate of YouTube since it came out in 2005. I've had an account with them. um and what we're trying to do but YouTube's owned by Google. YouTube's the biggest streaming site in the world. So what we're trying to do is exactly what YouTube does, just on a much smaller scale. I mean, we're trying to, uh, we're not, I mean that as far as putting the ads and all that, so people are able to watch our content and stuff for
Yeah,
free.
because
Not
Tubi's
that,
amazing. Because I mean, what's easier than to just
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
throw on
that's how you're
something?
going to make your money is your advertising.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly. So we just have to get there. We still got a lot of hills to climb, but I think we're on the right path, and I hope we're on the right path. And as
Eh,
long as I'm physically and mentally able to do it, I'm gonna keep doing it till the day I die. So
Yeah, I mean, like people who are into the paranormal, they're paranormal. A lot of these people that watch are just audience people, not people like ourselves. Like they're
Right.
junkies for this stuff, and they will jump around and pay, for Discovery Plus or Powerflix or whatever, like whatever they're into, they're into. But I think it's I think at least it's good for us to if we allow this to be accessible so easily for people to watch for free, and we can still make the money back from the efforts that we've put in, the blood,
Right.
sweat, and tears, but also letting people be able to watch it for free because it's basically your own TV network. So once
Right.
the commercials just play and you're cutting out the middleman, that's why Billy did what he did. So you're not dealing with YouTube or Vimeo where they're taking 50-60% of your profits. And the only way that you'd make money is if you had millions and millions of subscribers. Um, so, well,
and one of my things too, you mentioned I think Paraflex and a couple others, um minus us picking up some of these horror films and some other stuff. I want to pride ourselves on quality over quantity. I mean, look, I
Right.
could go out and shoot 10 a month and put them out there, but it's going to suffer. The quality is going to suffer, and the detail and all that. And so, I want to be very precise, but at the same time, I want to get to a point where we can grow and I can have other teams out there filming it. But I want to set a standard for what we kind of
so
put
yeah,
out there.
you could have a film crew go with them, and then you're being your own
Yeah,
TV network. Yeah, that's the
Right.
ultimate
that's
goal.
that's what I
That's
want
that's
to
the
do.
ultimate goal. Yeah, and I don't
Listen,
have to be a part of every documentary
I
too.
know
Actually,
if
we're
Every
doing.
show is showing us.
hey, and I'll tell you, man, if I never picked up another camera, if I never edited again, be no sweat off my back, to be honest with you, because I've been doing it for so long now. I want to grow this thing and give others opportunities too, like other filmmakers and other crews. But obviously that comes with generating the real revenue to be able to pay people what they're
Yeah,
worth and what they
film
deserve to
crews
get
ain't
paid.
cheap.
No, I know,
At least
I
not,
know.
the good ones aren't cheap. So
Not by any stretch of the imagination. So I think what we're doing now is a good base for others to kind of see how we produce these things. So when we are in that position, people can go and kind of study some of the things we've done and maybe try to mimic that, to a degree. And I've got a lot of friends, a lot of filmmaker friends and others who I know could potentially do what I could do as far as quality and putting it out and from a storytelling perspective. So like I said, we just have to keep pushing to get there. But yeah, man, I don't take anything for granted. I'm very thankful for every opportunity and for everything that we produced, and then the ones that are coming in the future too. We're going on a cool one on Thursday through Sunday coming up. That we're hoping to get a 3 to 4 part series out of. So we'll see what happens
sweet.
with that. Yeah. So
Well, I'm excited for you guys. Getting to understand it, and and I watched, like I said, I watched Demon Castle. I quit watching paranormal crap. I didn't even watch anything I was ever on, like YouTube wise, like anything.
yeah.
I don't want to watch it anymore. But
Hmm.
I sat down, like I told my crew and everybody else, like, yeah, I gotta watch this. This is actually pretty good. I said, I know Coletta's gonna throw a fit because of the title, but
Well, no, no, no.
look,
For Billy, who obviously doesn't know, and all our listeners that do, I am very anti demon when it comes to social media and
Yeah.
clickbait. Okay,
Mm,
that's my big thing. And
yeah.
I've noticed that it's starting to kind of fade away. It looks like that trend is starting to fade away. But when it comes to demons, I believe they exist. I have, worked with Sean a couple times now, and I know based upon interactions that I've seen him have and everything. There is a darker side, and these things exist. I'm just anti put it on there for a click. That's my thing.
I
Oh,
totally agree with
trust
you.
me.
And that's because of the YouTubers that are using
Yeah,
it just to get audience and stuff.
exactly,
And I know that there were some people that said some stuff about the Demon Castle when they first saw it was called Demon Castle, and some people have been
Mhm.
there and like that place is not demonic haunting. I'm telling you it is, and that's the reason why we called it that, is because it's reflective on what we actually experienced. And I think if you watch the documentary, it really shows some of the really dark, messed up things that were happening there and what we all experienced. And obviously my background and who I've been mentored by, Ralph Sarchi, is probably one of the most respected demonologists in the paranormal over the years, and I'm very appreciative to be mentored on him over the years. I mean, like, I wouldn't throw that word around if I didn't think that that place was truly haunted by an inhuman spirit, and it was. And obviously Nick has experienced some of that still coming through around me, just hissing and snakes references and stuff. I'm like, yeah, this, like, these things get pissed off. These really strong evil entities, they stick around for a long time. They're relentless because they're pissed off. They lost either a permission that they were infesting or even a soul that they had trapped, like the Malefist story. And they hate it, and they will make sure that they can take revenge if they have the possibility or opportunity to do it at any point in your life, especially people like ourselves who constantly go to these places and engage and open ourselves up to communicating with spirits, especially where there's other negative energies or even doorways where these things can come in and reference from other places that you've been to in the past. So, and obviously Nick has experienced some of that, and that, again, validates. It's like, yeah, I'm not kidding. This shit's real, man. Like,
I was chuckling because it instantly brought me to the Monroe house. Sean and I were sitting in what's called the seance room, and another investigator was with us, and she was asking questions, and it was referring to Sean. It was goes, kill him. And then she asked
Okay.
about Nick, and they were like, "Oh, good guy."
Dude, in the spirit realm, Sean probably has a big bounty on his head for anybody that can
I was
haunt him.
thinking that same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I already know that. I mean, there's no question
He
about
per-
that. I mean, let
yeah.
alone, dude, that night in the Monroe house, it was bringing up my father. It was like, "Where's your father?
Yeah,
Your father's here with us." It was saying some nasty stuff for
Mm.
sure. But I'll have to go through that evidence and see what else comes through.
like we had everywhere the Osama bin Laden posters, wanted. But in the
Yeah.
spiritual realm, it says wanted, and it's got Sean's face.
Wait,
Spiritual
Sean's
post office. The
Sean's the
spiritual
Bin
post
Laden of
office just says
Yeah,
Sean Wilson wanted posters.
Sean Bin Laden
Sean bin
Wanted,
the
Laden.
wanted
in the
dead.
spirit world.
I'm just gonna make a shirt that says "Making enemies in the right places," being a demonologist.
There you go.
Sean's like America's most wanted in the spirit world, right? He's like top. He's like top 5.
That's fine. If I'm pissing off evil, then so be it.
All right, guys, we'll get to the 3 questions here, and then we'll let you plug away everything, and we'll get out of here. So, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so tell our audience one interesting or weird fact about yourselves.
Mm.
I don't know. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with Godzilla, and I loved the new Godzilla movie recently. That's
Gosh,
really random
That's
and
the
weird.
weirdest fact you can come up with, Sean.
Oh gosh, I don't
I
know.
know.
Weird fact. Weird. I don't know.
I'm really good at basketball, and I'm 45 still. No,
Billy used to have an OnlyFans.
Yeah. Holy
oh
fans.
Lord, gosh, don't say that. You're gonna get me
He
definitely get
sells
me in trouble with my
he
wife.
sells
That's
he
where it was
sells
originally.
feet pics.
That was where it was originally called Scare Network.
There will be a link. There'll be a link in the comments.
He's got to fund this shit somehow, huh?
He says he wants to film something on Bigfoot, so go right ahead, bro.
Yeah. If you ever want to, Bigfoot is better than Sean Coletta's obsession with wieners and the Wienermobile. So
Wienermobile. Let's be accurate and specific here. That we're not talking about,
you talk about dicks a lot. It's kind of weird.
I don't know. Stephanie
anyway,
O'Reilly talks
so-
about dicks a lot. Talk about you if I'm talking about dicks.
All right, so in the paranormal field, everybody's a little quirky to begin with, but we're also
Yeah.
very quirky on what we eat and what we drink during paranormal investigating or filming, for that matter. What's your guys' favorite go-to snacks or drinks while you're investigating or filming?
Welch's gum chewy things. Um,
Late
chocolate.
night buffets for Sean, like 3 o'clock in the morning,
Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
4 o'clock in the morning. We were shooting in Jersey about seven. Gosh, that was almost 8. We did the Darkness in Suburbia series, and I don't know if y'all saw that about the whole haunted neighborhood in New Jersey, or at least saw the trailer on it. Sean and Shane Pittman and others. But 2 different nights we were investigating like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and Sean, I'm like, I just want to get back to the hotel and go to sleep because I go to bed early when I'm home. Like I'm talking about early, like 8:30, 9 o'clock. Wake up early in the morning. So these late nights, they kick my butt. Um, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, the last thing I'm thinking about is going to hit a freaking Chinese buffet or a Shoney's, but not Sean. Gosh, knows it. For me, it like I said, on these investigations and the stories that we shoot and stuff, um, I get so laser focused, and I know I keep saying that, but um, it, my diet's kind of whatever I can get and eat and not spend as much time on it. Because not only am I filming and stuff like that, I have to worry about collecting all the footage, importing it into a hard drive, making sure
Right.
everything's good, because you're shooting with 5 different cameras, you got to get 5 different cards and import it,
so no snacks,
drone
is what you're trying
stuff.
to say,
So
Billy.
Yeah, it's too
pretty
busy.
much, yeah. So try to stay busy on this.
So no Red Bulls, no Monsters, no Ghosts, no Starbucks.
Definitely Starbucks. I'll do a Red Bull from time to time. I saw you were drinking a Mountain Dew earlier.
No.
Um, I actually do on road trips. I'll get a Mountain Dew and drink that. But I swear, man, like I think I drink too much coffee though, because caffeine just does not affect me at all.
Right.
Anyway, that's not a good thing.
Drink a
So
pot of coffee and go to bed. Yeah.
I can do that. My
Yeah.
wife
I'm the
can.
same way. I'm the
I
same
swear
way.
I can. I could go drink a coffee right now and be asleep in 10 minutes in my bed.
You know.
So maybe that's a
Wish.
weird thing about me.
So just gummy bears and La Palma Mexican restaurant.
Well, if you're going to the Blackford Jail or Monroe House, the
Monroe.
Mexican spot is the place to go. I mean, considering where you are, I think that's a good little spot for sure.
All right, last question, y'all. So you got one night, one investigation, or one documentary, one night. You're only allowed to use 3 pieces of equipment to investigate with. What are you doing?
Spirit box, EVP recorder, and REM pod.
I mean, with me, that doesn't really apply, whatever.
All right, okay. Out of all the equipment you have to film, Billy, you're
Yeah.
only allowed 3 pieces of those. What are you going to use?
The one's a camera.
Obviously. Yeah, I have a really nice Sony camera. Well, I got a couple, well, 4 of them, but I've got one. He's like the Big Daddy. It's an FX9, and it shoots it shoots up to 6K. That's kind of extreme. So I'll shoot it at 4K, but I swear, man, the picture is crystal clear. It doesn't do infrared. We have to pull out smaller cameras and stuff for that. But for our interviews and stuff, yeah, man, that thing is a workhorse, and it looks like a cinematic camera. So obviously that, a microphone, and a light. There's 3. That's all your essentials right there you would need, especially in a dark location.
And Demon, get out of his way.
Yeah. Oh, and I do have to mention too, and I should have brought her on. My wife was actually in Demon Castle. I took her up there with me because where we drove from, it's like a 12-hour drive. And I'm like, man, I got to that's not the only reason. I actually wanted her to go and experience something like this. And she's infatuated with like English royalty. So I've
Oh,
always
okay.
been infatuated with like, you
So,
know, Queen Elizabeth and all them over and watches The Crown, all that stuff. So the fact that it was a uh, supposed haunted castle really piqued her interest. And when we shot it back in June, our kids were out of school, so we were able to get those taken care of. So she was able to come up with me and
that's
film an
cool. Awesome.
experience,
Yeah.
and she experienced some crazy stuff. You know, it was really crazy them calling her name out, and that place is that castle was crazy. I don't care what anybody says.
Are you a believer now?
Man, I get asked that question a lot. And again, been doing this for 3 years. I'm definitely a believer, without a doubt. But my philosophy on it is let's go and let's get all the evidence we can. You know, let me, the best I can, try to mold a cohesive story the best I can with this evidence, with the interviews, with the history, put that out to the public. And I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other if the paranormal is real, if ghosts
Right.
exist, if there's spirits. I just want you to just go in with an open mind if you're willing to go in with an open mind, watching one of our documentaries or series or whatever, and you can make your own assertions. I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other. I'm just putting out what we experienced and what we came up with and what we were able to put together. So I'm definitely a believer. Again, just going back to that castle, man. I mean, Sean catching that shadow figure, just the things coming out of Eric's head, and the thing that happened with my wife was a crazy. If you watch that, it said
I mean,
Molly, it's
actually, the thing that
cold.
came out of Eric's head, like, when he showed me the rough cut, I just was going through and sifting if anything else I wanted to like tweak. And I'm like, dude, like this gray
Yeah,
blob comes
I
right out of
missed it,
freaking Eric's head because I don't miss a peep when I'm looking at
and I
stuff.
did miss it.
And he was like, I have a headache, and you just see this little white blob fly right out of his
I
head,
actually
which
put
was
that clip out today on social media. I cut that clip out. It's like a minute, 15 seconds, and your voiceover is still in it too, Sean. But I just kind of put that individual clip out there. That's crazy. It happened to him twice there.
yeah.
And
And
what makes it
he
even
was
crazier
affected
is,
by that case a lot. I
well,
mean,
and it was right before he said that he didn't feel good and he had a headache, like literally seconds before these things came out of his head or his body. So it's like, how do you make sense of that? And we
right.
caught it on camera.
Well,
It's
you
all
had
about
the one clip in the basement where Sean's kind of provoking it in the name of Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
And then what? Somebody smelled piss. Somebody got
Yeah,
that
I
was
touched.
saw a
Eric.
pig face.
Yeah.
Eric
Okay.
smelled piss, and then we heard the hiss noise, all in succession. And
Yeah,
again, the pig thing, it followed us to Shanley Hotel. And then while Chris was getting scratched, with an image of his face turned into a pig. And Nick, you've obviously seen that picture.
Yep. Yep.
That's what was in the castle, and it was following us, and it was pissed off because it lost permission to be in that place because I did the exorcism ritual. It just shows you that this stuff was serious, and it was really agitated, really agitated.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Take a couple minutes or however long you want. Fuck, I don't care. We can stay here forever. Plug away.
well, I mean, we've been talking about Scare Network most of the night. So I just encourage everyone to go over to, scarenetwork.tv, which is our website address, and then just look up our apps. I mean, it's been a bumpy road for the last 7, 8 months with the platform because I took a leap of faith, February of last year, and I hired this group to rebuild our website, to take us off the current platform we were on and move us to where it's just our thing. So our apps have slowly been getting updated. Fire TV and Android TV should be coming out hopefully by Thursday of this week,
Which
updated,
when he
and it
means
looks good.
updated, it means it'll be free with ads.
Yeah,
So you'll be
yeah.
able to watch the content free with ads, and
You
then
can do it
after
right now on the desktop and right now on Roku. Um, but I get it. I get impatient. It hasn't moved as fast as I want it to. But we're getting there. I mean, if you just type in the web address on your phone or on your computer or wherever, you can go and see it. It looks beautiful right now. Now, just the fact that it looks beautiful doesn't mean everything from a technical side functions properly. But we're getting there slowly but surely. We're getting there, and I know that it'll be well worth it in the end. Even all the bumps in the road and the criticism from the technical side. So yeah, just check out Scare Network. Like us on social media, on obviously Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, and we'll keep putting teasers and stuff out there, and we're just gonna keep trying to just put good stories out there, whether it be paranormal, true crime, monster, or horror content. So yeah, that's all I
Telling
have
you,
to say.
advertisement on your true crime. Just put like premenopause pills and Starbucks for the middle-aged white woman that's gonna watch true crime. Dude, you're gonna be sitting back just raking in the money.
Hey, it's funny. My wife was looking at our site. I think our site stats on Facebook, and she said, and she's good with the analytics and looking at, so 61% of our audience is women and 39% is men. And our most of our content is heavy on the paranormal and stuff. And I'm like, that really
Well,
surprised me that
funny, no, it's funny you should say that, and that is the reason why you don't see any female-led paranormal shows for the most part, is because when I did Ghost Loop, one of the TV executive said the demographic is mostly women who watch paranormal shows. It's not men. So they have to, obviously privy to that and make shows that the audience is actually going to watch it. And that's why it's mostly men
Yeah.
Yeah.
on paranormal shows,
Well,
because that's who watches it.
look, man, women drive this field. And the only thing that doesn't happen is the top dogs you see on like most of the shows. But everything else, it's female driven. I mean, the audiences streaming. You go to paranormal conventions.
Yeah.
Just regular para events or anything to do with it. 80% of it that walks through the door is going to be women.
Yep, because they're more like open to spirituality,
Right.
than typical men freaking watch sports and drink beers. That's pretty much how far it goes. So
I don't give a
I
fuck
mean,
about your ghosts. I want to see the Yankees score.
I want to see. I want to hear, like, unless you watch The Godfather and watch the Yankees, I don't want to hear about shit.
Yeah, fuck the ghosts. Get out of here. It
Fucking
ain't paying
ghosts.
fucking rent. Get out of here.
That's
I
what my
like it,
friend
guys.
was.
I like it. Thank Billy. Hey, man, I appreciate you taking time coming on the podcast and
Oh,
letting
yeah,
us understand about Scare Network and awesome documentary that's out now, Demon and
yeah.
Gas.
Thank you for all the compliments and for um, you know, thanks for having me. And it was nice meeting you guys. And maybe we can do something together in the future. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I am phone call away and ready to go. Fuck some shit up. I'll
They
hold
got
the
a-
camera.
They got a lot. They got a lot of locations out here. There's definitely a plethora of locations.
Yeah, if I had time and unlimited funds, man, I'd be on the go a lot. Trust me.
Excuse me, Sean. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise, gentlemen.
All right, Captain Mucinex, got anything else you want to? You talk so much in this episode.
That's because you don't shut up.
That's
And
true.
when they talk, I want to hear them talk. You just don't shut up.
Yeah, well, that's why my head is getting bigger. I can't help it.
That's yeah.
Okay, quick question, Bill, Sean.
Oh.
Coletta, move your head out of the way. Just move this way. Does that look like me?
No.
No.
Thank you. Thank you. Does it kind of resemble him?
A little bit more than yours.
Yeah.
If you move out of the way, that guy right there looks like, sex symbol. He's sexy.
That's a
He's
hobbit
kinda-
right there.
You look at me. That's not me. He's got to
Pretty
change it, right?
Sure, that's not the Zodiac killer. You guys need to have like AI do a drawn image of you guys. Probably do a lot better job.
Yeah.
Probably.
Who did your artwork?
I just went through a program to do it. It was I don't know, it was something cartoon. Make yourself into a
Okay.
cartoon, and I picked like the Grand Theft Auto thing. I think it looks pretty cool, but
Oh, speaking of artwork, sorry, let me turn this back around on myself and my platform. No, I'm just kidding.
Uh-oh.
But I've got a I forgot to mention this. You asked what makes us stand out, Scare Network stand out. I've got an artist over, I don't know where he's at,
Sri Lanka.
Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Indonesia,
He's
somewhere.
fantastic.
And I send this guy ideas for our posters for our original documentaries. And this guy just does like the best horror paranormal posters and thumbnails that you could ever imagine. And anything I send him, he just nails it. So at the very least, even if you don't watch anything on our platform, just go and look at our original artwork.
Just go look at
I mean, we got some good ones on there. Gosh knows it. The movie might not be the greatest, but at least we got good artwork.
It'll make for a good movie poster.
Yep, I got a
Yeah,
lot
put
of them
them
printed
up
out.
on the wall. I got a bunch on my wall too.
Yeah, so, but
All right.
anyway, I
This
appreciate it,
episode,
guys.
this episode is in the books. Appreciate everybody listening to us. And Sean, Austin, we have a catchphrase now. I need you to send us out on this podcast with this catchphrase.
What was it again? The Sean what?
Oh,
The
well, I
effect?
guess there's
Sean
two. You got
effect.
the Sean effect, Robo Sean.
Oh,
It looks
yeah.
like fucking RoboCop when he's investigating.
Yeah.
All this shit strapped to him.
I know. I got all these devices coming out of every pocket. It's ridiculous.
Sean, who do we need to be like?
Oh, got to be like Bree, right? As you feel your chest, I'm a little disturbed now.
Yes. I don't know why I was doing that. I don't know.
I don't want to know why you're doing
things
that.
in that.
Maybe that's something you guys do privately. Hopefully you don't dress like her too, Nick.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, we're definitely done with this podcast.
Never on camera.
Till next time, guys. We'll see you.
See you.